Alright, so we're going to be talking about Mirio, aka Lemillion in this one, but more specifically how powerful he is, because as of recently, we've been able to see more or less his full potential in the anime. We've also seen what eventually happens to him. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about pretty much everything that we've seen in Season 4 so far. So if you're not up to date with the anime, I don't know what to tell you. But I won't be going into manga spoilers. I'm just going to strictly stay in Season 4 and stuff that happens in Season 4, so you don't have to worry about that. But I mainly want to talk about how powerful he is because there's a lot of things that go into making him essentially overpowered. It's not just his quirk. But speaking of his quirk, let's go over that real quick because I'm sure some of you might need a refresher, or there might even be some of you that are unaware of it. So Mirio's quirk is called Permeation, and this basically makes him intangible. If you're familiar with Naruto, think about Obito's Kamui. It's basically like that. So when Mirio activates this thing, everything passes through him and he can pass through anything. I mean, so far we haven't really seen anything be able to bypass this. Now, on paper, it seems like this is like the ultimate quirk, and it kind of is, but it more so goes into Mirio's mastery of it, because it took him many years and countless hours of training and trial and error to fully master this thing. Because just the act of moving through a wall requires a lot of concentration. Like, he'll need to keep one foot tangible while making the rest of his body intangible, and then making the other foot tangible in order to just pass through. And we further see this excellent mastery of his quirk later on in the series when he's able to kick through Eri's head, but at the same second make the rest of his foot tangible and just nail Chronostasis in the face in an excellent display of power. And this also further shows just how difficult it is to fight against somebody like this, because aside from all of Class 1A, including Izuku, just failing to land a shot on him, we see that he's able to just go straight through Chisaki's guard and land a clean punch on his face, keeping the whole intangible and simultaneously tangible aspect to his game. His mastery has also allowed him to add another aspect to his quirk's game, and that's been labeled as warping. So when his entire body becomes intangible, he falls through the ground, and once he solidifies again, he's shot out of the ground because mass can't overlap mass. And when he does catapult out of the ground, he's able to change the direction of where he goes, which essentially is creating this warping ability, which makes him super fast and super unpredictable as well. I mean, we've seen him throughout the series use this ability. So another big part of Mirio's fighting style is what I like to call practical foresight. And this is just essentially Mirio predicting what his opponent is going to do and then acting accordingly. But when he uses this in tandem with his quirk, it just further makes him as broken as he was, or from what we saw of him. So he learned this ability from his time training under Sir Night-Eye, whose quirk is Foresight, which like literally allows him to see into the future and then act accordingly. But given that Mirio does not have this quirk, he just learned through Night-Eye and through countless training and trial and error to make this somewhat of, as I label, a practical move. It's basically giving Mirio like a pseudo observation hockey, if you're familiar with that power dynamic of One Piece. I mean, things like this have allowed him to predict his opponent's gunfire and then act accordingly, and it also goes into his whole mastery of his quirk because he's able to just become intangible quick enough to avoid the gunfire. This is extremely similar to what we've seen of powerful One Piece characters like Katakuri and Aokiji, who have used their fruit abilities in combination with their observation hockey to counter their opponent's moves and have them phase through them, just like how Mirio is here. But to wrap up Mirio's quirk mastery, it's also revealed that when he becomes intangible, he's unable to see and hear, and this also goes into how he was so effective against fighting both Nemoto and Sakaki, because Sakaki's quirk is a balance inhibiting one, which kind of makes you drunk. And being that Mirio's quirk basically always puts him into a state of vertigo, he was still able to fight through this disadvantage and piece both of them up, like, not too difficultly. So now let's go into his physical strength, because he's pretty powerful in that department as well, and this probably goes more so into him inherently, and of course more so into his countless hours of training. But I would say that he's probably just as strong, if not stronger, than most of the pro heroes. And we get a good glimpse of this on display when he's fighting against Class 1A, when he takes out 90% of the class with just a single punch to the gut. And we can assume that he's probably not going full power here. So like a restrained punch, which, I don't know, maybe like 80% of his power, is enough to just one-shot incapacitate some of the best of Class 1A. So another good display of his power is when he's just taking out Chisaki's goons. Like, he just basically one or two shots all of them. And then when he's taking on Chisaki himself, he just beasts him around. And we see that Chisaki definitely has a heightened level of reflexes and durability. So for somebody like Mirio to just completely level him with punches is pretty telling of his power. But we might really be able to get a good idea of how strong Mirio is just by himself, because if we compare Izuku's punch to Overhaul, we can assume that maybe Izuku's using like 8% of One for All full cowling here, somewhere around there, maybe more, maybe less. But if we compare it to the same kind of punch that Mirio gives him, I guess we could assume that Mirio is like as strong as maybe like 8 or 10% of full cowling One for All, maybe somewhere around there, which is, you know, like I've been saying, pretty powerful considering that it's not a part of his quirk. So now let's go into his speed, because he excels in this department as well. So we already saw that he's fast enough to dodge bullets, so his reflexes and mobility is pretty stellar. He's also able to time his quirk pretty efficiently as well. We've already established that. But when he's really moving at top speeds in junction with using the warp aspect of his quirk, he's moving some of the fastest speeds that we've seen so far in the series. Like, in his fight against Class 1A, he was able to take out half of the class in under 6 seconds. Like, he beasted them all in that one sequence in like 5 seconds and 58 or something like that, according to the manga at least, which is obviously insane. And then we see when he goes full force and uses his, I guess, ultimate move in the Phantom Menace. He's moving so fast that it seems as though he's hitting Nemoto and Sasaki simultaneously, even though he's hitting them one after the other. And we've already established that Chisaki is rather fast with his reflexes, you know, considering that his quirk is close quarters and contact based, so naturally he would excel in that department through training. But even his advanced levels of speed in that department is really nothing for Mirio, who just kind of plays with Chisaki in this department and also easily fights off him and Chronostasis at the same time. Like, when Chronostasis is going to grab for the gun, like, Mirio spots this and then instantly is moving from Chisaki and then kicking Chronostasis. Like, this is absurdly fast. Just from a mobility standpoint, he's not even really using his quirk at this point. Like, not even the Overhaul quirk spike manipulation is really anything to Mirio, as he's able to just time his permeation while saving Eri at the same time, which also the Overhaul spike manipulation is said to be, you know, rather fast, and still it's not really much to Mirio. So everything together, we're looking at, you know, one of the strongest heroes we've ever seen in the series, even currently, to this day in the manga. I mean, also, you know, Aizawa himself said that Mirio, at that time, of course, was closest to being the #1 hero, including pros, which means that he saw Mirio being above the likes of Best Jeanist, Hawks, Edgeshot, and even Endeavor. Now, is that true? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, in the future of the story, we're going to see how ridiculous Hawks and Endeavor truly is. No spoilers, of course. So, it's really ultra debatable if Mirio is above them, but I think the argument could be made for sure, at least when Mirio had his quirk, and that brings us to him unfortunately losing it. And you'd think that this would severely nerf him, and while it does nerf him, I wouldn't say it severely does so, because even after he loses his quirk, He's still beating the crap out of Chisake and Chronostasis at the same time, and still is exceptionally fast from mobility and reflex aspects, and he still has great endurance and durability. I mean, he takes those spikes and it doesn't really hinder him all that much. And you also have to remember that the odds are stacked against him because not only is it 2v1, but he's also saving Eri at the same time. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Mirio, aka Lemillion. And you could go as far as saying that it took Horikoshi himself to take this guy down, you know, taking his quirk away. But that's a whole other topic for another time if it will come back. But I just mainly want to talk about how powerful he is in this video. I'll say that he could easily be top 5 in the top 10 heroes, very easily. But after that, it gets really debatable because it comes down to like who is more skilled, who is more adept in what certain situation, and who is the most powerful overall. But I would say that he's neck and neck with like Hawks and Endeavor for that title. And then it just becomes semantics after that point. But let me know what you think about Mirio Lemillion's power, when he had it, of course, in the comments. And if you like the video, guys, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It gives you access to a weekly Q&A. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.